With today's technological advances and fast-paced life, BMS is your trusted next-generation IT solutions provider that keeps you ahead of the competition. From humble beginnings, BMS Company is now one of the fastest-growing software engineering service providers, with international presence and golden reputation for excellence. The BMS Company is your one-stop global destination for web development, mobile application development, digital marketing, SEO, Facebook and Google advertising, social media management, business consulting, printing services, and many more. BMS is trusted to provide timely, cost-effective solutions. At BMS, we believe in providing guaranteed results, irrespective of a project's complexity. No stories, no excuses. And core to all of our operation is that we practice what we preach, and we deliver what we promise. We're proud of our dream team of solution-driven enthusiasts comprising of industry experts in various fields, including blockchain, IoT, and AI. Our unique makeup and cooperate synergy enables BMS to add heart to technology while delivering our trademark exceptional results for our esteemed customers. Get free 3 months of hosting and 30 days SEO when you partner with us today. Call us now on 469-992-4567 or visit our website at thebmscompany.com.
Hey, what up, what up? This your boy Gabriel Willer, and I'm locked in with my bro, Mr. Ferman Jackson Jr. on Walking His Ways and Impact Voice. Loved your show, bro. Keep it going.
You are now listening to the most talked about blog talk radio station in the universe. Walking His Ways, Impact Voice Radio. Be prepared to have your mind stimulated, your spirit elevated in ways you couldn't even imagine. Introducing your host and the mastermind behind this unforgettable experience, Ferman Jackson Jr. You will not be disappointed. Let's go!
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Walking This Way Impact Voice Podcast. I'm your host, Ferman Jackson Jr., broadcasting live once again from the city of Arlington, Texas, Dallas, Texas, Fort Worth, Texas. Big shout out to the DFW. Big shout out to the great state of Texas and all surrounding areas. Big shout out to my home state of Alabama, that's where Anna representing that. Of course, you got Mississippi, where Kenny's representing that. And I'm very excited to have our guest of the evening, Mr. Bhojani, that's going to be here. He's already on here. He's very excited about his run for office. And we're very excited, very thankful to have you on here as well. Before we get started, we're going to kick it off with Kenny. I know he's out on the streets. I know he's going to talk about the sports news. We love sports. So, Kenny, take it away with sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, how I have missed everyone in radio land, podcast land. I am back. You are now in the Prime Zone. I'm your host, Kenny Primetime Williams. I am so glad to be here with you. We got a little bit to talk about today. Before we start off, I want to say big shouts out to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, Dallas, Texas, the state of Alabama. Everybody on the sound of my voice, thank you for tuning in and thank you for listening to Walk His Way podcast. And now, let's go on to our sports news. We have a new Super Bowl champion, and that is the Los Angeles Rams. As everybody watched last Sunday, the Rams defeated the Cincinnati Bengals, and what a great game it was. It was a great halftime show. Atmosphere was awesome in LA. The Lombardi Trophy is now back in Los Angeles, but next year it'll be in Dallas, Texas. I just want to put that on out there. But congratulations to the Los Angeles Rams for a great season, a great game, and congratulations on you winning the Super Bowl, and big ups to the Cincinnati Bengals as well. A young team, young coach, and they will definitely be back in the dance sooner or later. Now let's move on to the NBA. a lot of breaking news, a lot of trade rumors has happened, a lot of blockbuster trades as well. James Harden is no longer a Brooklyn Net. He is now a Philadelphia 76er. And the reason why he has been traded has been speculated by a lot of people. But one main source told me that he left because of Kyrie Irving. They couldn't get along in the locker room. And a great man by the name of Shannon Sharp said it once. He said when they first started, this wasn't going to match up and this wasn't going to work. And he was right. So now James Harden and is with the new team, his new team of Philadelphia. Also, Ben Simmons is with the Brooklyn Nets now, and so I think that's going to be a good comparison with KD and Kyrie and everything. Also, KD is suffering from an injury and he's been out for a while, but he's expected to make a quick return and a quick recovery soon. So we look for his return very soon. A lot going on in the NFL with coaches changes, free agencies. A lot of different players don't know their destination for next year, or we're going to stay tight because now it's just getting to the point where free agencies are just about to get kicked off. So a lot of breaking news are going to be coming through your screen if you're a sports genius like myself. So we'll be looking forward to that. I'm hoping that everybody on the Dallas Cowboys will remain, but there have been speculations that Amari Cooper, along with Ezekiel Elliott and DeMarcus Lawrence, will be moving on, along with Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup is subjected to be the highest paid free agency wide receiver in the free agency period. So we're going to look forward and hopefully Jerry pull out his checkbook and just write another big check like he done everybody else. So that's all I have for you guys right now. But I want to say I love you. I miss everyone in podcast land. I will be back in the studio with everybody, just out here getting it. And we love you. We want to say God loves you. Jesus loves you too. Mr. Jackson, Miss Anna, and our special guest tonight. Great show. Have a great night. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Back to you, Mr. Ferman.
Hey, appreciate you, Kenny. Thanks for all the news and updates that's going on in the sports world. And like I said, once again, very excited to have a very special guest with us this evening. Before we get started, I'm going to pass it off to Anna. So, Anna, go ahead and take it away.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so excited tonight to have a special guest on with us. So glad that we got Kenny back tonight. Ferman, so glad to have you on here. And I see Shay logged on, so I'm excited, you guys. So tonight, we're going to be talking to Mr. Salman Bhojani. Did I say it right?
That's right, yes.
Great. So before we get into, I really want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to us, to our audience, and everyone who's tuning into our podcast. Just tell us a little bit about who you are.
Sure. Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you, Mr. Jackson, for having me here. So I actually am an immigrant. I was born in Pakistan, and I moved United States when I was 19 years old and worked at minimum wage jobs at $6 an hour, 3 jobs to make ends meet, and then worked my way up. I own a business now, have been to law school in the evening program. I'm an attorney now, and I've lived the American dream. Was also elected to the Euless City Council, became the first minority in the history of the city to be elected to Euless City Council. Yeah, it was really amazing. And that's when we had a coalition of Asian American voters, African American voters, Latino voters, and as well as Democrats, and we all came together and pitched in and for me. So really blessed to have that victory. And then I became a mayor pro tem for the city of Euless last year. And now I'm running for the state representative position because we really need to have good leaders in Austin.
Oh man, absolutely. You have done some tremendous work, and it seems like you've done it at a fast pace, coming from Pakistan, going to Canada, then moving to the Lone Star State of Texas. Can you just tell us what kind of hardships have you experienced and how have they helped and shaped your journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are a lot of hardship, especially when you move to, another country, a new country, and, you're sort of have a family, a big family to feed, and you're the bread earner. Like, what do you do, right? And especially if you don't have a lot of skills, you have to start at the ground floor. And I did that, right? I said, I had to mop on floors, clean restrooms and stock shelves for $6 an hour, and work 3 jobs, like I said, one in the morning, one in another store in the evening, gas station, and then a third store in the weekend. to do about 80, 90 hours a week to make sure to put food on the table and feed the family and do all the things. And so as an immigrant, you're sort of learning a new language, you're learning the new culture, learning all the, you don't have as many friends. And so you don't even have time for friends, right? So that those are the tough times, but that's where character is built, right? Where you really can work hard and say, hey, this is my work ethic. And then everything else seems easy, right? If you're in now, I mean, it's I'm blessed to have that, live that American dream. But I think, it is a determination of, if you can work hard in this country, I think this country can pay dividends. But I think there are a lot of people who try their best, but they're not able to because the system may be flawed. And that's where I really want to change the system to make sure that we all seek that American dream, right? Not everybody achieves it, but how can I help somebody else achieve that American dream? Because the system may not be equal for everybody, right? And equality is the best thing that I stand for.
Wow. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that because I wanted to know, and I'm sure our listeners are intrigued as well. You've overcome some tremendous feats. So, as a representative for the House District, what are your primary responsibilities in that role? Can you explain that to someone who may not be accustomed to what you're responsible for and what things you will do in that position?
Absolutely. So it's even though we get elected from a district, there are 150 districts in the state of Texas. So that means 150 state representatives. But the representatives that get elected, they make laws for the entire state of Texas. And so the laws are about infrastructure, about education. We really need to make sure that we have a good public education system. And so we need to make sure that the healthcare, to make sure we have a good healthcare as well, good infrastructure for energy grid. I mean, you must have seen last year, we were on the news everywhere because we were seconds away from a catastrophic failure, and we had weeks on and people didn't have electricity, hot water, and a home to live in. And so that's some of the things that are really priority for me. But I'll quickly tell you some of the issues that matter to me the most. Last year, our state reps really butchered our voting rights. I came to America because of the great democracy it is. And the democracy starts by having a right to vote, and not just having a right, but making it easy for people to vote. Yeah, last cycle, they made it more difficult for people to vote. 50% of the mail-in ballot applications this year have been rejected for small petty things that people didn't even care about. So people that have been wanting or voting for decades by mail will not be able to do it in the middle of the pandemic, right? We should make it more easy for people to vote during the pandemic by mail. And so there are some really draconian laws that were passed last cycle. We need to repeal those. And we need to make sure that we have good reproductive rights, right? Nobody should be able to tell my wife what to do with her body. It's her body, her control. There's no ifs and buts, right? And so right now in the state of Texas, there's the most conservative law about reproductive rights on the books. And we need to repeal that, in my opinion. And it's unconstitutional. I'm an attorney. I know the Constitution. This is unconstitutional law that we have in the books. And then we also need to make sure that we're paying our teachers well. Right now in Texas, we're not paying our teachers well, and we're not giving them a good pension. Right? They need to be able to retire in dignity because they've served our country. Then second thing, and then another thing is like having the healthcare. Our healthcare premiums have really skyrocketed. And Texas is a state with the lowest uninsured population. 5 million people in the state of Texas do not have insurance. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's huge number. 1 in 5 people do not have insurance. And so I feel like we can pass Medicaid expansion to bring in the money that we're paying to the state, to Washington right now. And then we need to, like I said, fix the electric grid. So these are the priorities for me. But I probably answered more than you asked, but go ahead.
No, you actually answered everything on my list. So you hit it because I definitely wanted to know, like, how did you go from working hard you worked in gas station, then you went to becoming a business owner, owning your own convenience stores, paying your way through school. And I was wondering, how did you get into politics? Because I see you're very passionate about things that are going on in the community. So how did you really get started in the political journey?
That's a great question. You know so much about my life. Well, that's awesome. So actually, our 2016 November is when we elected our former president. That morning was really, really tough for me and my family. My kids, I was trying to explain to them, how would this person lead a great nation? He preys on the divisiveness of American society, right? He hates people like me from a different faith. He hates people like me for being an immigrant. And my family was very sad that day. And we're like, what should we do? And how did this happen, right? And then we said, okay, look, maybe we need to get more involved. I was already serving on the park board in Euless, that's not a political position. It was just sort of giving back to my community as a volunteer position. And then came January 2017. Like, sometimes life comes at you and you get busy. And so from November to January 15th or 20th, I got busy, like how life happens. And then January 20th, he takes office. And the first thing he does is institutes a Muslim ban. A ban that's from 15 Muslim countries. People that are there legitimately cannot even come legally here in the United States. So I was at the DFW airport at that time as an attorney trying to help my fellow, brothers and sisters in faith, trying to really come out of the airport and enter United States. And, I was able to sort of, after several days, win that small battle, but, the war was still going on. And so I felt that, we really need to do something about it. Like as South Asians and as other community members, I stay on the sidelines. So I felt like for far too long, we have not had a seat at the table. That's why we're on the menu, right? And Muslims have been on the menu for far too long. And I felt that, it's not good. And I see all around, like, if you talk about African-American rights, if you talk about Latino rights, and all Asian American, I think we're so much on the sidelines. I felt I need to do something about it. Mahatma Gandhi once said that, you need to be the change that you want to see in the world, right? And so that's what I adopted. And I said, I'm going to put my name in the hat. And I ran for city council. That's when I got politically involved, because I just felt that this was not the right direction for the country, that I came to this country because of the positivity. We can agree or disagree, right? All day long. That's okay, right? We're not going to agree on everything. That's okay.
Absolutely.
But let's be respectful about it, right? Let's teach our kids that there's something called civility, and that we need to have, because that's the most American thing to do, is have different perspectives and be respectful about it. Share your different perspective, because America is a melting pot of different cultures, different faiths, different countries. And that is what, like, every person is an immigrant here, unless you're American Indian, right? You're an immigrant here. So that's how we're built on. So that's what made me politically involved.
Oh, well, thank you so much for answering my questions. I'm sure Ferman has a couple for you too.
Sure.
And I appreciate you, Selman. Did I say it? Selman, right? Selman?
It's Salman or Bhojani, whatever.
All right, Salman, I thank you once again for being on here. And like Anna would mention, your passion, your drive, and you have a very unique story. And that's what it's all about here on Impact Voice. Your determination, from starting at the bottom, now you're at the top. And we respect that a lot, because a lot of people actually just give up, settle for less, and say, well, this is my purpose, this is my life. But you, as being a man from another country, being determined, and that's what we love to hear on Impact Voice Podcast, hearing stories like yours, along and meeting great men and women, which I say extraordinary, because your story inspired a lot of people as well. And it takes a special individual to be in this arena of running for office, being in politics, and you being in this position right now to make change. And that's what we need in our country. We need change for everybody. And I'm gonna ask this question: what keeps you motivated on this journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think my kids, my family, the future, right? I mean, we really need to have a better state where we can really have a dialogue with people and not be judged based on the party you believe in, or the race you are, or what country of origin, or the faith, right? We just need parity. Equality is what I'm fighting for. Like I said at the beginning, right? It doesn't matter. Like I've lived sort of that American dream. I've also served on the Euless City Council. I don't know if I told you guys. So in last 3 years, I've served on Euless City Council, and actually I was the only Democrat on that Euless City Council. It's a 7 board member city council meeting of members. And I was the only Democrat and the only minority. And my 6 colleagues, former colleagues on city council, they were all Republican, but they elected me as a mayor pro tem for the city of Euless, which means a lot about how I've been able to work with them, right? And I did not care if you're Republican or Democrat. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we need to fight for our people. We need to have a better state and a better country for our people. And that's what I always say, that, let's come together. We're all Americans. Let's come together. We're all Texans. What are the priorities? And that's why I keep fighting every single day to make sure we have a fairer Texas. We have a fairer United States, where we're having everybody on the table and having everybody's voices heard, right? You should not be, if your sexual orientation is another really big deal, right? People shun them for different reasons, and for time and time again, we're labeling and judging people based on so many different things. And at the end of the day, we just need to say, hey, look, America is all about differences, different kind of people. Let's come together at the table and let's talk about it, and let's resolve something that's best for everybody. And so that's what that's what keeps me motivated. And I'm a Boy Scout leader as well. So as I teach my Boy Scouts, I ask them, what keeps you up at night, right? The other thing that, like, sort of an opposite of what you're asking me, Mr. Jackson, is what keeps you up at night? And they always tell me climate change is the single most important issue that keeps them up at night, because they're like, you guys had a really good world when you were born, but when we were born, we didn't have that great of a world. And what about their kids? So that's what they're just saying, you're passing the buck down to us, which is not fair. You need to do something about it right now. And they can't even vote right now. So they always feel that, their issues or their perspective is not taken care of. And so that's another thing that I'm really passionate about, is making sure that we leave this planet better than we found it. That's what our faith tells us. That's what our humanity tells us.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And the great Dr. Martin Luther King says it's not about the it's not it should be about the content of a person's character. Not about their skin orientation, their sexual orientation, it should be about the content of character. And we know that character is very important when it comes to being in a political field where you or kind of whatever profession you in, that character is important. And I know you run against many other people that's that's running for the same position. But what makes you stand out from the rest? Because that's what the voters are always looking for.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And so, the reason I think that people should vote for me over my opponents is because the experience I have. It's really important to send people to Austin or to any state legislature for that matter. I know, Anna, you're not from Texas, but it's important that when you send people to the legislature, they should have a local experience. I believe politics is local. So if, let's say, in Euless, when I was at Euless City Council, I knew what was best for my citizens. And if I got it wrong, because obviously nobody knows everything, me and my city council members, when we got it wrong, our citizens came to us and told us at the city hall, where we met, several times during the month, and said, hey, you got this wrong, and we will fix it because we're so agile, we're flexible, we can change it on the city level. A state cannot govern every city from their capital, like Austin, right? Especially a state that's so diverse as Texas, the issues that Galveston has are not the same issues Houston has, or Euless has, or Benbrook, or some city in West Texas. So I feel like politics is local. So if you have a local elected experience, and then you go to the state house, then it's better, because then you can hit the ground running. You've already developed the relationships. You already know how the city is run. You know how the state is run, because it's all interlinked, right? So I feel that it's very difficult for anybody to wake up one fine day and say, oh, I'm going to run for the state, because you have to put in that work, and you have to show voters, what have you done? And I can show people that what have I done while I was in city council. And sometimes I don't have to speak a lot. I just say, hey, my Republican city council members elected me as a mayor pro tem. Think about how I've been able to work with them and really for the people, right? Without any partisan rhetoric, and make laws that are best for the people. And so I think that's number one thing. And then number two thing is, I have been a business owner. I've lived the American dream. I know how it feels to live at minimum wage, right? Not a lot of people have that, as an experience, especially those people that run for office. They're usually extremely, well off to do, and they have been doing that for a long time. I was not as blessed, but that's okay. I tell my kids that, hey, I never want you to go through that, but going through that turmoil, like we talked about, Anna, that built my character, right? And I always think about the people that are needy, people that need my help. I want to give them a hand up, so that way they can come as well. And maybe a next 19-year-old who's mopping floors at a gas station, I see myself in them, and I say, how can I help that person achieve that American dream as well? So that's another character that I have, is making sure that I am a business owner. I've lived that sort of minimum wage job, and that's what our district looks like. By the way, I'll tell you, 71% of our district is composed of people of color. 71%. It's a huge, it's a minority majority district, and by far, it's like 20 plus. So that's really, really good. And a lot of people are working class, blue collar jobs. And so, and number one priority for them is, how are you going to create jobs? How are you going to make a vibrant economy? And again, the pandemic has really slowed things down. But I think, there are things that we can do to make this economy even better. There are so many people moving from everywhere in the United States to Texas, and we will make sure that this district is getting all that business as well. So yeah, a couple of things, like I said, but go ahead.
Oh, awesome stuff, what you were saying. And I love it here in Texas. Like I said, December 18th of this year will make it 2 years that I've been living here, living in the great state of Texas, Dallas, Texas. And I know it's a lot of um, opportunities here for a lot of people from different walks of life, different backgrounds, and I know you play a role in that as well. And I know you said your children, your sons, inspired you, and that's good to see men inspire allow their sons to inspire them to make a better tomorrow for them as well. Because Coach the Bible said, "A good man leave inheritance for his children." And I know you want to leave that inheritance for your children, that they can mimic what their dad is doing, the work that he's doing, the change that he's doing. And we love change. We love to see change in our community, of course, and just not in our community, but around the world to be inspired. And with your unique background, like you said, you came from nothing to something. And like I said, people you run against, they're millionaires, billionaire background where they don't know. I guess you want to say about the hardship of climbing that ladder. And so when you, what is the main? I know Anna already asked the question earlier, but the main focus of you running for this political office.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a minority majority district, it's really important to have somebody that looks like them, or that, you know, maybe that can talk like them, or that can resonate with them. At the end of the day, I don't want to go to Austin because all the things that I'm all about. That's being very selfish. I want to go to Austin to represent people that live in the district, meaning that in order to represent people, you need to actually petition the people, or you need to hear the concerns of the people, right? That's why we've knocked on thousands and thousands of doors in the district from starting from November of last year, to make sure to hear their opinion, hear their voices, their perspective, right? Because I've never been a Hispanic person. I've never been a Black person. I've never been, like, you know, part of the LGBTQ community. So by default, I do not have the same perspective as they would.
Right.
But how can I include that perspective is inviting them to the table, or going to their home actually and knocking on their door and trying to find, like, there are so many people that have said, I've never had a candidate ever in my life that has come to my door. You've come in, that makes so much difference to me, and let's stay in touch. I've gotten their cell phone number. I've kept in touch with them, and at any time. So what I want to do is, when I get to Austin, is I want to petition them again and say, hey, you told me that you'll help me sort of think through these laws from your perspective, right? And I also want to add the youth perspective. I'm going to have like an advisory council that's going to be for African American, for Hispanic, for Asian American, for LGBTQ, for religious interfaith dialogue, because I think interfaith dialogue is so important, right? I think people miss the boat, you know, like a lot of other people will say, okay, oh, you're a Muslim. Okay, you don't believe in Jesus. I'm like, I believe in Jesus Christ. He is a prophet for us, and I believe in his teaching. Again, look at the character of that person. Such an amazing character. Like, it's so vibrant, and so much, you know, you get so much positive energy from listening to the stories of Jesus. So I tell them that we're all like one faith, one sort of part of the same Abrahamic faith. And like here, if I drive from here to Houston, there's so many ways to get to Houston. Some people may get there before I do. Some people will get there after, but that's okay. At the end of the day, we'll all get there. We'll all find our salvation. We'll all find good, so long as we've been good humans first, right? And so, you know, we'll have all their perspectives heard, and that's important to do, to be part of that district and really get the pulse of that district. And that's, you know, that's really important.
Also, and you mentioned something, different races, different backgrounds. And I know we're in a time where people stereotype different people from every walks of life, but missing the goodness of people, getting to know a person. You had hit the nail on the coffin with that. Getting to know a person, welcome them in, to get to know them, understand where they're coming from, and where they want to go. Because everybody want to have a good life. Everybody want to have a very successful life, a meaningful life. And we love to hear that. We love to hear that mention of what you just said, and to really move forward into the things that we all have to do. Because we all have to play a part. And I know a lot of times when it comes to office, everybody put all the responsibility on you guys. But I know, but we have to do our part as citizens. We have to do our part as well. So how can us as the voters, as the people, be more involved? How can we get more involved? Where can we start? Because we have to play a role also.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, you know, one of the first things people can do, one of the easiest sort of low-hanging fruit, is go and vote, right? It obviously research your candidates, who's running for office. Are they resonating with you? Are they reaching out to you? Are they knocking on your door? Are they making phone calls? Are they sending text messages? Are they sending you a mailer? There's so many ways an average, just to give you a statistic, a voter needs to be touched between 5 to 7 times in order for them to come out and vote. So, there's so many ways that people can be touched today. And so that's what we want to make sure that if they're reaching out to you, go and vote for them. If they're not reaching out to you, research yourself to see who's a better candidate, who will represent me better when they get elected. And then also hold them accountable, right? That's the second piece that sometimes we forget about. We'll say, okay, they will come to your door and they'll talk about great things. When they get elected, that's when you don't need to hold them accountable. So I give people my cell phone. I say, hey, here's my cell phone. Hold me accountable when I get elected, because that's what we need more, right? Not just voting, because a politician should not be coming to you at your door only when they need their votes, but then disappear when they actually get elected, right? So that's important. But as a voter, as an American, as a Texan, first thing that we should do is go out and vote. Second thing is, if you really like a candidate, work for their campaign, volunteer sometimes. I mean, if you have an hour or two on the weekend, tell them, hey, can I knock on a few doors for you? Can I make phone calls? Energize your community. That's the third thing that people can do. So let's say, if like I'm from the Asian American community, so I always try to say, hey, because I can speak their language, like South Asian, right? So I can tell them, hey, it's so important to go vote. Not for me, just whoever is voting. And so since last 3-4 years and I've been elected, I didn't ask my vote. I was volunteering for different campaigns and trying to see how I can really get their vote out. Because one thing people don't know is when you go and vote consistently, that's when you have candidates knocking on your door. So I'll give you an example. So I'm running a campaign. I have limited resources, limited funds, limited time, right? So if I have, let's say I need to get 5,000 votes, right? So I have a lot of people that have never voted before. I have 15,000 of those, and I have 5,000 of those or 6,000 of those that have voted every time. Who am I going to pay attention to, right? I'm going to pay attention to the people that have voted every single time, because it's easier return on investment or higher return on investment for them to come out than to talk about these 15,000 who have never come out. I may not get as much ROI. But if you are in this bucket where a lot of people you're voting every single time, you will be getting a lot of knocks on your door. You'll be getting phone calls. You'll be getting mailers. And that's why it's important for people to vote. And that's why I keep telling. So energize your community, because when that community votes in large numbers, that's when you really have a good political clout. Canada will going to come to you and say, you as a community, not you as Anna or Mr. Jackson. They're going to come in and say, okay, what can I do for X community or Y community? And that's where the power really starts.
And that's some awesome stuff. Anna, you got anything you want to add to that?
Yes, Salman, I just want to say thank you so much. You educated me on a lot of things. I've been taking a lot of mental notes, just listening to your story of overcoming. That was awesome. Humble beginnings really touched me, hearing how you got into politics. You briefly told us some of the things that were important to you, issues that you want to address. You talked about the climate change. You talked about reproductive rights. You talked about creating more jobs in our communities. You also talked about the district that you're hoping to, represent is a minority majority district, which is very important that we know and we understand these things. You also told us some of your responsibilities if elected. And so here on Impact Voice, we want to educate our audience. We want to teach them things. So for those who are listening, we've learned that we go out, we vote for representatives and candidates that best represent us, our ideas, our feelings, right? And then you're in a position to then create legislation, take bills, take amendments, say, hey, these are the changes that are needed in the community that I represent. This is what the people of my community would like to see changed, amended, reformed, enacted. Okay, and then you talked about interacting with your community so that they feel included and involved. So I've learned a lot just by sitting here listening to you. I'm not in Texas, but it is my home. And so it's so important that we as citizens, that we as individuals, we understand the power of our voice and our vote, and that we go out. We sometimes complain about the leadership that we have in office, but we need to make sure we're doing our part and voting for those people who can represent us, our ideas, our feelings, right? Because that's what you do. You help take our ideas and get them to present it to legislation, correct? so that
Exactly.
we can fix, amend, and create laws that represent us as a whole, as a community.
Yep.
So you did mention a few things and issues that were important to you. If elected, which issue is the biggest or the top of your most important priority? How do you want to be seen and remembered? What impact do you want to leave? What issue is at the top of your list if elected?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, it's like picking, out of your 5 kids, pick the best kid, right? And so it's tough, right? Because I mean, I'm passionate about at least 5 things for sure. And what I want to do is, this is just so, I know this is not a political show, but this is a safe democratic district. So whoever wins the democratic primary will most likely win the general election, meaning that I'll have, after March 1st, I'll have 8 months extra to build relationships with people in Texas House, to really start thinking about building up the legislative agenda for 2023 cycle, right? Our Texas legislature meets every other year, right? So it's not meeting 2022, but they'll meet 2023. And so I want to build that legislative agenda starting March 1st, right? Or March 2nd, once you win the primary, so that way we can really hone in on all these 5 issues. But again, I cannot do it alone, right? I have to make sure that we have other state reps that we can get buy-in from them, and I already have relationships with them. Actually, half a dozen state representatives in Texas right now that are elected have endorsed our campaign. Wow. So I'm really, really blessed. In fact, even the former state senator Wendy Davis, I don't know if you know that name, but she was a really big fighter for reproductive rights. And as soon as she met me and she interviewed me and talked to me, she knew that I was going to fight really hard for reproductive rights when she also fought for the same thing. And so we're really blessed to have been even endorsed by the AFL-CIO, which is Texas statewide union, as well as AFT, the Federation of Texas Teachers. I'm endorsed by the Dallas Morning News, which is again a really, really great endorsement. And a lot of different organizations, like the firefighters pack for the entire Texas state firefighters, have endorsed our campaign. So and every city, Euless, Grand Prairie, all the firefighters in our district have endorsed our campaign also. So that means a lot to me, that there are a lot of other people who I didn't have a relationship before, but then when I talked to them about my campaign and my story, they were really excited about having a really fresh perspective and a fresh, a person that would be able to be elected. So that, I'm really looking forward to that as well. But yes, it's tough, Anna, to answer that question. Which one of the kids you like the most, right?
Which one of the kids you like the most? I think that you're in a great position because your humble beginnings resonates where you can relate to the people of your community. You putting yourself through school and becoming educated, becoming a businessman, and becoming an attorney, who better to understand legislation, rules, laws, and fight for us?
Absolutely.
Okay, with your law background, I feel that you're in a great position to really be impactful, to really help the community. And I hope that you are elected and you continue to do great things. Be the man that you say you are. I know you are a family man, because the things you've done have been for your family. Like being able to say, I worked as a middle class person, I've worked as a business owner. So you can see both sides of the spectrum, and then you can better represent and help us. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens 2022, 2023. And you said something about building relationships. That's so important, not just in politics, but in life, y'all. Have to be able to network. You have to be able to work with a group of people who may not always agree with you. And so not just being a minority or just being from somewhere else, but that's very powerful, because you're going to have to work with Republicans, Democrats, people who see and view things differently, but you're going to have to find a way to agree to get things working and going for the greater good. So you want to do the most good for the most people, is what I always say. So I think you're in a great position. I'm really looking forward to see what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for those kind words. That means a lot to me.
Man, that's awesome right there. And like I said, we respect what you're doing. We know that it takes a special individual, have a heart determined to run for office, to make change for the whole entire generation. And we truly thank you for giving us this opportunity to interview you. Like I said, much success to you. And my last question is, and I ask it to the guests all the time: how do you want your legacy to be after it's all said and done?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, a legacy is sort of a lifetime worth of work, right? But I think I do want to fight, like, Anna said a great thing, right? Do the most good for the most amount of people, right? That's such an amazing statement, because, that's what I wanted to do when I was serving ULIS. I was serving 60,000 people, right? Now in the state, I'll be serving 189,000 people, right? Almost 200,000 people. And so that, my goal is to really serve humanity, right? And really serve people and show compassion. I think that's what's sometimes missing in our political atmosphere, that we can be from different parties, we can be from different backgrounds, but compassion is what really links all humankind together. We have compassion for each other. Actually, at the end of the day, we're social beings, right? When somebody talks to you about yourself, and you talk to them about themselves, I think you build a bond. And that's why, like Anna, you said, relationships are really important. Relationship is how things get done and laws get passed. But lack of relationship, that's where things fail, right? Because some people get so, like, resistance, with each other. They don't work well with each other. But who suffers at the end of the day? Not those people. The human sort of race or the constituents suffer. And that's why it was so great. We had a best kept secret in Euless City Council where we got along. Did not matter what party we were, did not matter I was the only minority. And that's why I always say that let's build relationships one at a time, and that will serve you well. So even for the listeners, anybody, that relationship is so important, and have that compassion, the humility. No matter how high somebody gets, at the end of the day, they're going to go on the ground, right? When they die, they're not going to be able to take all their belongings. They could have the best car or the best home in the world. At the end of the day, you're going to go on the ground, you're going to face God, and you need to make sure that you have been kind, you have been humble, you have been good to people. That's what will really measure your legacy. And so that's why I always say, hopefully I can touch the hearts of millions of people. And that's what my legacy would be, that he has done good work for me, and I respect him. And that those words would mean a lot to me. And that we leave this world a better place. I mean, that's so important. Like, I mean, I care for my kids. My kids are really, all about, like, my boy is turning out, he's going to be an Eagle Scout soon. He's done his Eagle Scout project with senior citizens in the city of Euless, because he did it during the pandemic, and they were so confined to their space. He built a beautiful raised garden bed for them. They can get out and water it and all that. So really, really, I mean, I'm blessed to have kids that also want to do the same thing, serve humanity, right, at the end of the day. And that, I think, encompasses everything. And if I can do a good job in serving humanity, I would have met my purpose.
Hey, awesome. That's what's up right there. And also, how can people get in contact with you? How can they vote?
Sure.
How can they just be a part of this awesome movement that's taking place here in the great state of Texas?
Absolutely. Great question. Yeah, I always forget that. So our website is bojanifortexas.com. So B as in boy, HOJANIFOR, Texas, TEXAS.com. You can get involved, you can volunteer, you can donate to our campaign. Every dollar gets us a little bit further, to the victory and all that. And then, just making sure, and I'll give my cell phone number as well if you guys are okay with that.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Okay.
That. And
So
we got one more question too.
Okay.
Shay got a question for you. Go ahead, Shay.
Okay, go ahead.
You gotta unmute her.
I really love everything that you are doing. It's really admirable, so very admirable.
Thank you. So blessed.
I really love that you mentioned the youth, because that was like a part of my question. So like for youth, like what would you tell children or like young adults that are interested in politics and might want to start? Where would they start? I know this is a thing that can go on for years and years. It kind of can take years and years of schooling. So like, where would they start if they wanted to start to dabble into politics?
Yes, that's a great question, Shane. I think I am really big on youth. In fact, when I got elected to Euless City Council, I started something called Youth in Government, where we invited juniors and seniors from all high schools in Euless to do a 9-week program where we taught them, what does a city do for you? Meaning the fire department, the police department, the library, the parks, the water department, the public utility, all that. And they were amazed at how big of an impact the city has on them as opposed to the presidential election. Everybody really gets excited about the presidential election, but what's closest to you as a city. And so, I taught one of the 9 classes about what does the city council do for you, and how to run for city council. So as soon as people turn 18, they can run for city council, which is a really great thing, and they can really give back. Yeah, actually, yeah. And then, I mean, run for the student council, right? That start over there. If you're passionate about an issue, talk to your elected official. I think that's something that people miss out on, because I love it when high schoolers email me or call me or text me and say, hey, can you talk about this issue that's going on in my school or in my city? And I think that's how you get educated and help somebody's campaign. I mean, not necessarily our campaign, just anybody, right? If you're local, if you just look at a candidate, and if you like them, help their campaign, because by helping their campaign, you're also learning how to run a campaign. And we need to work on a pipeline of youth that are running for campaign. We need to talk not just 1, 2, 3. It should be like 50, 100, 500 youth should be excited. So that way we're working on a pipeline. That's what's missing right now, is how do we really energize the youth? And once they work on the other people's campaigns, they will understand what are the political issues that they should be working with, right? And there's so many nonprofit organizations that work with that. And then, yeah, just getting, if they're, like I talked to you about the Boy Scouts, right? They were passionate about climate change. So I said, okay, create a nonprofit, and you can do it as a young, adult as well. You don't have to be an adult as well. I mean, create an organization, a nonprofit that really fights for climate change, or endorses candidates that are fighting for climate change, or talks to your state representatives or your elected officials and petition them that, hey, we are a really big youth organization, and our main focus is climate change. What are you doing for us? Or technology, right? There's a lot of kids who are talking about blockchain or artificial intelligence, right? Those are something that they need to know, because here's the one statistic that's really interesting. Our youth, like my kids, the careers they will be working on in the next, several decades, 63% of them haven't been invented yet. How do you teach these youth how to work with a career that hasn't been invented yet? Meaning that it will probably be technology based. It'll probably have to do something with blockchain. It'll probably have to do something with artificial intelligence. But how will you teach these kids these out of the box ideas when our public school teachers are not being paid well, right? So there's so many things that come together. But at the end of the day, youth are our future, and I believe in investing in them to get better educated, to get politically involved, because if they're not politically involved, we are going to be a nation that has voting only like 20, 30, or 40% of the people are voting. And that's not representation by population, as our founding fathers said, that, okay, we should have representation by population, but if you have only 30% of the people voting, those elected officials are not being voted by majority of people. They're being voted by a minority of people. So that's what gets youth excited, that, hey, yes, obviously, right, elected officials are answerable to their voters. It should be actually their constituents, but at the end of the day, how can they be unseated? It can only be done by voters. And so I feel that if they get involved in politics and they vote in large numbers, they will be able to have this country better looking at climate change and other youth-related issues.
Thank you. And Shay, that was such a good question.
Yes, and I love that you are a minority, and I've been in certain positions where I've gotten chosen where I'm the only Black person in the office, in a lot of positions that I've been chosen for. And I know sometimes, like when I would enter in those rooms, I would feel a little awkward and it would be a little uncomfortable sometimes. So like, how do you deal with that, being that you're fighting for these are some big issues that you're fighting for, like equality, especially with the LGBT community, and other things that you're fighting for are big issues, and they cause controversy. So how do you handle those big rooms like that?
That's a great question, Shay. I think, you do it again, I'll go back to the relationship, right? So when I got elected to the Euless City Council, there were 6 other city council members that were elected. I met with each one of them individually. Again, I'm not talking about in a group, because in a group dynamics is very different than a one-on-one dynamics, right? At the end, like I said, we're humans, we're social beings. Once people get to find out about you and you get to find out about them, you connect at a different level. And then when you come together, sit on the dais and you're legislating, and when you say something, other people will not shun you or say it and respond in a bad way. They may disagree with you, but they may have an opinion about it, and they may say something about it in a positive way. So you can garner the support of your peers and your colleagues. That's number one thing, right? That's what I'm saying, that once we get past the primary, that's what I intend to do. There are 150 state representatives. I want to meet with all 149 to make sure that I have a personal relationship with each one of them. And I think that will go a long way in them understanding my perspective, right? Why am I saying that women's rights are so important to me? The reproductive justice is so important to me, right? They'll understand that it's not about just my wife. It's just about why do we want to have the state interfere with a woman's health? That's what we're boiling down to, right? Why do we talk about abortion and all that in such a negative way? At the end of the day, it's a woman's health. Let the woman and her physician and her family handle it. Who is the state? Like I gave an example that if somebody has to do a brain surgery, are we going to come in and interfere and say, oh, we cannot do brain surgeries in Texas? Why? Like that's a health issue, right? If a doctor thinks that patient needs a brain surgery, they will do it. There's no ifs and buts. The state doesn't interfere with that. So I think when we talk about that, because a lot of my friends tell me, hey, it's a religious issue. I'm a Catholic and I believe that there should not be an abortion. I was like, okay, I understand. That is your religious point of view. The state of Texas does not endorse one religion over the other. But even if you look at other religions, they may not like abortion. At the end of the day, it's not, the state is not saying that we should adopt this or not. The state is saying, I'm just saying that state should not interfere with that relationship or that decision. And so I think when you slowly make people understand, for example, voting, right? I'm going to explain to them in a manner that, hey, if we can make it easy to vote, it's good for everybody, Republicans, Democrats, everybody. I'm not saying that, oh, only Democrats will vote. No, everybody will vote more. That's okay. But a representation by the population is what our goal is. And if that's the goal, let's increase the turnout. Let's increase the people. Like if it's easier to say everybody that turns 18 or everybody that becomes a naturalized citizen should automatically be registered to vote. That's
Correct.
not happening right now. That's a very simple change, right? Anybody that is. And then what happens as a candidate, then I know who's registered, because right now there's no list of people that are not registered. So how do you knock on their door? How do you talk to them, right? So, and if they don't want to register, that's fine. You can sort of opt out by filling out a form, but it should be a system where you automatically get registered. So that way it's easier for them to go and vote. It should be a simple thing to have a state holiday on election day, right? It's a simple thing. It's not something that I'm talking about only Democrats. I'm just talking about level the playing field, make it equal, because the people who are working hard, like how I was doing at $6 an hour, how am I going to find time, right? Shay or Anna or Mr. Jackson, how am I
You
going
are
to
so right.
I mean, to vote when I'm like working 12 hours a day. But if you make it in a way that, okay, there's multiple weekends, there's longer times, I can vote by mail easily. Right now, we can vote by mail easily. It's not possible. In the middle of the pandemic, it should be easier. So there has to be an election reform where we need to make it easy for people to vote. And that's not a partisan issue. So once you make these things in a very common sense, simple kitchen table issues, I think it'll resonate with more people. I think it's how we phrase it. When we phrase it in a more partisan way, I think that's really turns people off, right? And so I am a very simple person. I talk about logic, and I just talk about simple kitchen table issues and common sense solutions. And I think that's what resonates with people more. And so hopefully, I know it's a tall order. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I think somebody has to fight, right? Somebody has to take the lead and say, hey, I'm going to have all these things in my repertoire of my vocabulary, and I'm going to give it to them in a very simple bite-sized pieces, so they can really chew on it and sleep overnight, and then let's talk tomorrow, right? We don't have to do everything in one day. Let's slowly chip away at all these issues and make it very simple issues.
That is so true. I heard a person say, how do you eat the whale? One bite at a
time.
Like one bite at a time. That is so true.
Over several days also, right? You can't eat a whale in one day also.
Right? That's so true. I know, like, definitely things like this aren't for everybody. Like being in politics isn't for everyone. Being an anesthesiologist isn't for everyone. Being a lawyer isn't for everyone. These are like major roles that fit people that probably didn't think that they would even be that successful. It's usually those people that had these like major success stories. So for you, when was that aha moment? Like it went off like, I can do this. Like this is my thing.
Yeah, it was, as I said before, that, when we elected a former president, that's one, was a point in my career where I felt I never knew that I would be a politician. I never knew that I would get anywhere close to this. And I'd voted for President Obama and all these great leaders, but never knew that I would do it myself until sometimes these events have to make it really big, like eye-opening events, right? And so November 2016 was an eye-opening event for me and my family, and so we sat down on the table, just like when we sat on the table when I went to law school, because I didn't have that also in my plan, right? I just wanted to raise the bar for my kids, because I felt if I just did an undergrad, they would just do an undergrad. I wanted to sort of go higher, and that's when I went to law school. And so hopefully they do more than that for them. But the same thing, like, okay, let's sit on the table, let's decide, like, what do we do about this, right? Because it's not going to be a fun time in the next 4 years, because it's just anything that person has said has not been humble, has not been kind, has not been compassionate. And I feel that it's going to be really bad for us. And that's what made me feel like, okay, now I'm going to put my name in the hat and run for office. It's very difficult to put yourself out there. I mean, just if people haven't run for office, it's really tough, right? Because you have to have a thick skin. People are going to tell you like crazy things. I mean, I'll tell you a couple of things that they told me. So as I was running for office and I was greeting people at the polls, there was an individual that came in, an old person that came in and on a wheelchair. And I said, hey, I'm looking forward to your support. My name is Salman Bhojani. I'm running to be a Euless City Council member, and I'm passionate to serve you. He's like, well, okay, but what kind of pork do you eat? So I was like, that's a weird question to ask, and I didn't understand. So I was like, can you repeat that again? He's like, what kind of pork do you eat? So I was like, I did not know there are a lot of different kind of porks, but I don't eat any kind of pork, right? Well, he's like, if you don't eat pork, then you don't have my vote. And so I said, with all due respect, sir, you can vote against me, but I'm not going to change my religion or denounce my faith or do something different to make you feel that, now you can vote for me, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what they're getting at, right? They want me to denounce my faith, that, and people told me on my face that you're a terrorist. All Muslims are terrorists and you're a terrorist. And I don't vote for terrorists. Or people said, go back to Pakistan. This is not your country. I was like, well, I mean, I'm a citizen. My kids are born here. This is my future. I'm going to die here. I wasn't born here, but I'll die here. And this is my country. And I'm here to serve my country, right? I could be making money at my law firm. Would I rather do that over volunteering? Because city council, there's no salary, right? We're giving all the, work for free because we're passionate about giving back to our community. We're passionate about public service. And so, I kept telling them, and they told me like really horrible things. But at the end of the day, you have to have a thick skin. Your family has to be on board, right? I mean, I'm so blessed to have a wife and kids that are really understanding of everything that I'm doing, because it takes time away from them. It takes time away from my business. My partners are understanding in my business. So there's a lot of strain that's put on a candidate. But once you, get elected, once you do good things for people, you really get good comments, you get good vibes from people. And, sometimes it makes your day, right? When your constituent is saying, hey, thank you so much for representing me. You've done such a great job. And I think that's what really keeps me going on a daily basis, that yes, I'm going to do this. Although it is challenging, right? To balance that. I mean, my wife will tell you that I'm not a good person to balance, because I'll really get involved in the campaign mode. And I'm spending 14 hours a day on the campaign every day for the last 4 months. So it's been a challenge, but I think, again, if you have the passion for it, it just automatically, I get attracted to, doing things for the community, right? So really blessed to have that for sure.
Awesome stuff there. And we thank you for giving us the time to just hang out with us here on the podcast. And I know you want to give us your information. How can people get in contact with you? How can they get more involved? Sure. And most important one would be shout out to your family, your wife. She's been truly a help me with your campaign. Reached out to me, set it up. Truly is good to have a support system.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I'll quickly tell you, listeners, my number is 469-774-0469. Call, text me. I want to hear from people in District 92. I'll tell you actually that the cities that are involved. So Euless, Bedford, Hearst. If you live in 6 of these cities, so Euless, Bedford, Hearst, Fort Worth, a small sliver of Fort Worth that connects to the DFW airport is in the district. Arlington, East Arlington is in the district, and West Grand Prairie, everything in Tarrant County is in the district as well. So if you live in these cities, you're eligible to, and if you're eligible to vote, then you can vote for this race. The primaries are happening right now. The early voting ends on February 25th, Friday. And then election day is March 1st. And again, it's a Tuesday. I know it's difficult for people to take time off on Tuesday, but to do your civic duty. That is, really important to do your civic duty. That's how you really choose candidates. I look forward to seeing you at the polls. I'll be at the polls every day to say hi, take a selfie with me. I'm taking selfies. Like I've taken maybe 100 selfies in the last 2 days of people, coming in to vote for us. And, I love selfies, but yeah, come take a selfie with me and, come vote for us, because it's really important. And hopefully, we get everybody's support and we represent people in Austin and really do a good job at this community.
Man, so awesome
Thank
stuff.
you.
And we do thank you, of course, for being here once again. I know we're pressing for time. I know you're a busy man, of course, on a mission, on assignment. And we do appreciate you here once again on Impact Was Podcast, because what you said tonight was truly impactful. It really sparked something. It really ignited something in all of us to be better men and women, for our country, for our community, as as a whole. So we do appreciate you once again, and we do big shout out to you and your family as well. And like I said, y'all go out there and vote, make your voice be heard, make it loud, and most importantly, walk in your purpose. Of course, that was all right here on Impact Was Podcast. I know we got our guest that's gonna be back on. We got a guest next Tuesday. She's an international recording artist. Shout out Lynn. She'll be here with us next Tuesday night, talking about her album, talking about her music. I'm very excited to have an international record. We had somebody in office. Now we got an international recording artist going to be joining us next Tuesday night. So give a big shout out to everybody. We did thank you again. So do you have any final remarks before we get off the air tonight?
No, I'm good. Yeah, just go out and vote. Whoever you like. Research your district, because they've been gerrymandered quite a bit, right? Just this last process with census data and all that. The districts are gerrymandered really badly. So research what district you're in, and then look at your candidate and vote for the one that resonates with you more. Thank you.
And awesome. So, of course, give a big shout out to me. I'm your host, Ferman, along with Anna C, Coach Shay, Kenny as well. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. And we all will be back here next Tuesday night here on Walking This Way Impact Podcast. Also, the replay will be up tonight. So go like our YouTube channel, like and subscribe. Also, be on Anchor Podcast as well. So follow us on Anchor Podcast. This interview will be seen audio and visual on our YouTube channel as well on Anchor Podcast. So you can go back, listen to it, get something out of it. I think the more you listen to it, you always will get something different out of it. So we thank y'all once again for the support. We thank everybody for the love. We thank everybody for everything. And most important, walk in your life purpose. We'll be back here next Tuesday night here on Walking This Way Impact Was Podcast. Y'all have a great night. Remember, walk in your purpose. Peace, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.